Hey guys, my name's Andrew Liberty, and I chose to do my project on Brazil. So, first thing is Brazil's economy. They are, to date, the eighth largest economy in the world, which sounds great. But in 2015, they had a huge recession, the biggest in the country's history, which has really put them back a little bit. The government scandal or sorry, the government scandals have caused limited business opportunities, and they obviously rely pretty heavily on trade. So it's been a huge problem. And since the recession in 2015, they've turned it around. The GDP has raised 1%. Inflation is now at 2.9, and unemployment, however, is up 1.5%. Um, their government does play a large role in their economy and is very controlling in most of it. Their judicial system regulates laws regarding their economy according to their constitution. Some things that they do control are power generation, oil extraction, mining, water supply, and telecommunications. So they're in control of a large amount of their economy. So it's important to have a good government, which is why the government scandal was really hurtful in their economy progressing. They are a free market economy, and they do rely heavily on doing business with other countries. Their central bank has become the most important governing factor post recession due to the poor government. There wasn't a lot about the bank that I could find, but I did see that the central bank had become very important post recession. As I mentioned earlier, their um, unemployment rate was up, and they have 26.5% of their population living below the poverty line, which is pretty high for how well their economy is. Um, some of Brazil's issues are widespread gang violence across the country due to illicit drug trafficking. They are also the second largest consumer of cocaine in the world. And the reason why they have so many illicit drugs is because they're used as a way station for narcotics being shipped to Europe from Bolivia, Peru, Colombia, mainly, and other countries as well. But that's one of the reasons why they have such large gang violence problems and illicit drug problems in the country. And obviously, the gang issue has led to drug smuggling and weapon smuggling, which was used or which has led to money laundering in the financial system, another huge problem for Brazil right now. Another issue that I found was that migration laws granted non citizen immigrants equal access to public services such as education and health and the right to join unions. Um, and they also are now granting a humanitarian visa to people from other countries who are suffering, mostly close countries such as Venezuela, who's obviously going through a terrible time right now with their government. So, Venezuela actually has more than 7,500 people who have requested asylum in Brazil, and they've all been granted humanitarian visas. Um, this could either be good or bad, depending on how the people who immigrate over do in their economy. This could be good for their economy, or it could be bad depending on if they work or not. So I think we'll see what happens in the future based on their economy, and this could be a direct relation to what happens. As I mentioned earlier, they rely pretty heavily on trade. Some of their biggest trade partners are China, the United States, Argentina, Germany, and the Netherlands. Their exports include things such as machinery, electrical and transport equipment, chemical products, oil, automotive parts, and electronics. And this is a huge part of their economy right here. Obviously, agriculture has been big for them. They're one of, if not the greatest, um, coffee exports, and agriculture has really kept them alive. So to see them start expanding to machinery and electrical and transport equipment is pretty cool, and I think that'll play a large role in their success in the future. But as of right now, agriculture is huge for them. They're doing great in coffee, soybeans, wheat, rice, corn, sugarcane, um, cocoa, and citrus and beef. So those are their main trading countries, exports and imports, and they rely pretty heavily on those. There are more than 50 fair trade certified producers and traders in Brazil. And before fair trade, they had been struggling just because the rise in cost of production to deliver to international markets was crushing them. So for fair trade to come over and help them out has really enhanced um, their agricultural powerhouse production. So that's been really important for them in particular. And their economic development, obviously the political scandal was huge and has set them back a little bit, causing them to go through a major recession. So that really hurt their economic development. But post-recession, they've been going forward and making some strides. But if they don't figure out the crime and violence, with the drug trafficking, then I don't know how well their economy is going to do. They really need to straighten some things out. Some things that I would recommend, I'm sure they're trying to do these, but some things that I would just recommend are investing in education. Um, I believe they are, I believe it's like either 85 or 90% of people over the age of 15 in Brazil can read and write. So that's pretty good. But I just think that furthering their education will increase the jobs and decrease the unemployment rate and decrease the poverty rate. And another huge problem was their rural structures where their roads are rough. So I think investing in the rural area structures would, one, increase their trade. It'd be easier to get around, and it would decrease unemployment rate as well by creating jobs in construction. And the one huge factor, obviously, is the government needs to become stronger. They need to be able to rely on their government officials, and the government needs to have some accountability and take action in order for them to grow their economy. Some skills to develop their economy. I think I'd be able to develop a business plan for the construction that needs to be done, which would increase some jobs and benefit their economy. And I think the network skills that I've learned recently, just in getting my master's and just reaching out to people and growing my network, would help to create a team that is willing to crack down on gang violence and illicit drug use and drug trafficking. Helping out Brazil's least advantaged. Obviously, the people who are least advantaged in Brazil are in extreme poverty and they need attention, not only medically, but I mean spiritually as well. And there's simple things that we can do for the least advantaged, such as sending over clean water and basic necessities that they don't have. But I think sending doctors and nurses that are willing to go and like a missions unit that could go and like check them out and make sure they're okay medically, I think that'd be huge. That's how I would take care of the least advantaged in Brazil. And in conclusion, even though Brazil has had a large recession and a pretty major setback, considering it was the largest in their country's history, they are turning it around and they're getting better. Um, and they're using their agriculture around them to increase their economy, and they're starting to venture out into manufacturing and other avenues. But I think the main thing that Brazil needs to focus on is getting their government right. So they did remove the prior government officials, which they pretty much had to. And that was a good start to help turn around the economy. But they need to get some people in place that have accountability and that are willing to help the country's economy and have the best plan for Brazil in place. Because they are rapidly improving and continuing to push in the right direction, but they just need some people in the right place to take care of them. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys have a great semester.